So I can never leave well enough alone. I played with this mask pattern. The original one was designed, there's a whole bunch exactly the same. They tend to call them an Olsen mask. But I found it lacking a little bit, so I played around with it. I did a few hacks and kept using it the same way, and then after I put a wire in the top, it pulled it up higher to where glass is set, and it started to get too short. So that's how I came up with this. I've done a pattern that I'm going to put in a PDF and post, and I'm just doing a quick tutorial. I'm assuming you sewed, and if I'm telling you things that you already know, I'm not trying to be condescending. You can cut this pattern piece out and just cut out one, and then fold it for each piece that you cut, which is all I do because I'm lazy. Or you can cut out 3 separate pieces, one for the filter cloth, one for the inner fabric, and one for the outside. So it's all cut out. I prefer to cut with a rotary cutter, but any way is just fine. So I also in the instructions, it's this one first. Also the outside, that center seam there. And you can serge if you want. A lot of them I do serge. My sewing machine's a little more quiet for the video, so it doesn't make a big difference. Same seam on the inside, and I've stacked it. I have filter cloth, and then I have the inner fabrics right sides together, and then I have filter cloth. It's like a filter cloth sandwich. And then you need to get the pocket out of the inside. If you didn't want a pocket, you could skip this step. But then you cut the filter cloth the same size. Sometimes that doesn't match up quite so perfectly once you get it sewn on there. I find it's easier if I just trim it a little bit so I can get an easier fold on my fabric. So I just fold it over once, and I just finger press, and then I fold a second time and finger press again. And then I'm just gonna sew that little hem down so it's over twice so all the raw edges are inside. And it's really not necessary to serge that piece either. Same thing on this side, and my filter cloth shifted a little bit when I sewed. You can hold things together a little better if you want. It doesn't make a big difference in the end. And then I fold that over. 2 folds there so that the raw sides are in. I always find it better to trim my threads as I go, or I catch them in places I don't want to. You're welcome to trim the excess off here to make it easier sewing. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And the odd time I've missed the inner fabric when I've been a little wonky with the lining. And you'll want to keep track of which side is up. There isn't much of a difference, but there is a small one. There's a little more room in the top for the nose. I might make a mark on the pattern to make that easier to distinguish. I can tell by looking at it that it's this one. I'll probably put a little arrow in there or something. And you match your center seams together. And I flip the top 2 forward and the other one back just for ease. You could split them. I don't really want them split down the middle on both layers, because then to me that creates more chance for air to pass through, so I flip the bottom ones one way and the top ones the other. might not make a big difference. And then you just do the same on the bottom. I'll put a clip on the top there so I know it's the top, just in case I forget. See, I find it easier sewing from the side of the lining. And again, it doesn't matter. I could, if I wanted it to flip the same way all the way down, I could flip the bottom seam forward and the top seam so that it's the same way. I just find it harder to keep the bottom ones going under. But I think that's important to kind of seal that. You don't want those two seams hitting at the same spot. And then you turn it inside out, just like a sock. Some filter cloths are heavier than others, whatever you can get a hold of. Like the Sobeys and the dollar store green reusable shopping bags. Those are the same stuff as that filter cloth, and obviously where they've put silk screening on, you wouldn't be able to breathe through that part, but any other part you could. You can just finger press this. I find it easier just to go press it. Okay, so I turned it right side out and I went and I pressed it, and I pressed the seam so that it was easy to top stitch. And then I took the front piece, that's the inner has the filter cloth sewn to it, and the seam allowance that was there, I folded over and pressed, and then I folded over like a little over 1/4 inch. And then you just fold it to meet the edge of the pocket. So it meets the edge of the pocket there. Pressed, and then I'll sew it. And I tend to work by stitching the top first. I can tell easy by looking at it. It's not a whole lot, but it comes down there. Again, if you need help keeping track of it, just clip it. Top stitch the bottom as well, going right off, so you're doing the edge of that casing. I try and get as close to the edge of the fabric so when I'm pushing my threader through. So now on the top we're going to put in a casing for the wire. I use like from my needle to the edge of my presser foot, but I think I measured it. I think it's like 3/8. Forgot to set a wire out. So I take a piece of wire and I cut it and I bend the edges so that it's not pokey. And usually one side will be easier than the other. It depends on which way your seam flipped. Sometimes you do a test run. And you slide your wire in that casing. Then you just center it. And I can feel my ends right there. So I'm going to be really careful. If you hit that wire, you're going to damage your machine. So I'm going to have my thumb right on there to make sure that when I put that presser foot down, my wire is nowhere near there. Doesn't matter if it has a little bit of play. And the same on the other side. I can feel that wire. I'm going to make sure I can feel it with my finger before I even set that foot down. Now that pressings come in handy because now it knows where everything knows where it wants to go. All I have to do is sew them closed. Same on the other side. I hate ironing clothes, but I find sometimes with some sewing jobs it's easier to press. Hope all you ladies are staying safe and healthy yourselves. Don't you wish you could make more masks in an hour? I know I do. That's what it feels like, that I can't make enough. So that's done. And again, now we know that the top is where the wire is. I don't like safety pins for threading anything through. I never use them. I would use knitting sewing needle for knitting, or a bodkin, whatever you call them. I would thread it through with that before I messed with a safety pin. They catch. Drawstring threaders are nice elastic threaders. This is one of my favorite things. It's got a hole in there. So I just stick it in the bottom, pull it through, and then I leave it in and stick it in the bottom of the other side, unthread it, pull it out, and that's how fast it is to put the elastics in. I put a really loose tie in just in case someone needs it tighter than this or looser, but I don't want them to accidentally pull it out and have to figure out how to thread it back through. So if they were putting HEPA filters in from an air filter, furnace filter, vacuum bag, apparently some vacuum bags might have asbestos, so you should be careful of that. You can shove it in there and take it out throughout the day, but nobody has to worry about ears at that point. And with that tight fit, it's a real nice fit on the face. Thank you.